everyone, and welcome to IoT Marketing Live. I'm Tiffani and Neilson, and with me is CEO and founder of IoT Marketing, Johannes Beekman. How are you doing today, Johannes?
I'm doing great, Tiffani. How are you?
Fantastic. And today we're going to be talking about some news related to our food systems as we prepare for our Connected Food webinar on Thursday, June 30th. But first, we're going to kick things off by talking about our experience at the Embedded Technology Convention last week. And Johannes, what did you think of the convention?
Well, this was our first physical event coming out of the pandemic, and I was really looking forward to it. But as much as I like the personal interaction of the trade shows, I feel we need to kick up the trade shows a notch or two.
Great. Well, let's watch a short video that we've prepared with some interviews and photos of the event, and we'll be back in just a moment to share some more news with you.
I'm the managing director of Credo Lab in America. We help banks and lenders, insurance companies to approve more customers and lower their cost of risk by looking at smartphone and web behavioral metadata. I'm here at the Embedded Technology Conference in Las Vegas, and we embed our technology into the front end of financial institutions. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Carlo Rivis, CEO of Innovation Discovery. So we are here on Embedded Technologies in Las Vegas. We bring here our technology search engine. That is a search engine that helps companies in find innovations much faster. Normally, companies need 3 to 12 months to identify novel technologies to adopt. We need just a couple of days in order to identify what your company needs. I'm happy to be here and looking forward to talk with you. Bye.
I'm the Chief Operating Officer, and we're embedded right now. We actually won Product of the Year, and we are working in the sustainability space. So we're working with local farmers, manufacturers, producers, and we are processing anything that they consider waste, or the world consider waste. So the apple that's too small, too big, not round enough, we process it and then we commercialize them. So we transform it into a product that's shelf-stable for 20 years. That's about 90% smaller, and yeah.
I'm here at the Embedded Technology Convention here in Las Vegas, and I have the Global Creative Arts Foundation. And right now, because we have enough food for our country and our kids, that I'm making a plea to please. I'm connected with some farmers. We can grow some food indoors, and then later we'll be setting up more. It's a great opportunity to help our kids, help our family, help our country. My phone number, my best email is PHP, stands for People Helping People, Diamond, DIAMOND, at gmail.com. And Global Creative Arts Foundation, I'm Ian Young, just really looking to help.
So that's Ian Young of the Global Arts Foundation, and obviously there is a sincere message to help our food systems. So attend the Connected Food webinar and support his foundation and do your part. Don't waste food. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye. And we're back. That was a great video, Johannes. What did you think of the exhibitors at the event?
Well, the exhibitors were great. We had great conversations with them. We had a lot of interaction, and we did several great interviews with the exhibitors.
And Johannes and I spoke at the event at a panel discussion on embedded systems of systems alongside David Knight of Turbine. And let's watch a clip of that discussion. Hello, the Embedded Technology Convention. Thank you for having us for the panel discussion today on embedded systems of systems. I'm Tiffani and Neilson, and I will be your moderator for today's panel discussion. And with me, I have David Knight of Turbine. How are you doing today, David?
I'm doing great.
Thank you for joining me. And Johannes Beekman of IoT Marketing. How are you doing, Johannes?
I'm doing great, Tiffani. Thanks for asking, and thanks for organizing this panel.
Absolutely. And again, I'm Tiffani Neilson with IoT Marketing and Industry Insights webinars, and we are so pleased you could join us today. How have you seen embedded systems change over the past, say, 5 to 10 years?
Well, embedded systems tend to follow what's called Moore's Law. So for those of you probably all heard about it, Gordon Moore was the co-founder of Intel. He is widely regarded as the person who first predicted the evolution of the microprocessor. Essentially, he said that the number of switches on a chip would double every 18 to 24 months. Now that more or less equates to the power of the chip doubling every 18 to 24 months. What's astonishing is that Gordon Moore's prediction, now called Moore's Law, and the fact of it, and how that is tracked with his company Intel, has still continued to this day, and it's been 40 years since he made that prediction. It's very salient to embedded systems because we're now getting, what Intel calls the better, faster, cheaper waterfall chart of each new generation of processor. Now embedded systems have the power of, when Johannes was talking about working on 8-bit microprocessors, we're now up to horsepower levels that would have been just inconceivable, 10 years ago.
Excellent. Thank you so much, David. And Johannes, can you tell us from your perspective what embedded systems can do now that they never could before?
Well, looking at it from our webinars, Tiffani, so we are asking more and more from embedded systems because the IoT is pushing more intelligence to the edge. It's asking more analytics on the edge. And yes, for decades we could work with 8-bit. Now we need multi-core embedded microprocessor systems simply for the data processing, simply for the analytics, and even for cybersecurity. So it's just more that embedded systems have to do now. And it's getting to the point where we're pushing so much intelligence and also computing power to the edge that we are creating an autonomous edge where the data, because we're simply producing too much data. We cannot store all the data that we generate right now. So that data needs to be processed on the edge. The other thing is also, you cannot push all the data from the edge into the cloud. You don't have the bandwidth enough bandwidth to push it into the cloud. So we are creating autonomous systems on the edge that call into the mothership cloud on a regular basis simply to see if anything needs to be fixed.
Thank you, Johannes. And for anyone just joining us, feel free to come on up and grab a seat. We're going to need your opinion in just a second. We're going to have a poll. But David, first, could you tell us if you feel embedded systems are becoming more complex or more simplified?
I would say they're becoming fantastically more complex.
And Johannes, as we talk about different embedded systems getting more simplified, how do you see the low-code and no-code revolution impacting the embedded systems of the future?
Look at the platforms that are being used right now. You can use C, every dialect. You can use Java, Python, PHP. Most of the operating languages are being used already. And what's also being used is we're using MATLAB and MATLAB Simulink on embedded platforms. Now MATLAB Simulink is pretty low code. So what I'm trying to say is the environment is there, so we can run any local platform on embedded systems. And it will definitely help because embedded systems are getting more complex. So if you can accelerate the development cycle of software with low code, that will definitely help getting the device to the market that much faster.
And my next question is to the audience. Is everyone doing well out there? Well, my next question is, what do you see as being the next disruptor to embedded systems? Is it going to be AI? Is it going to be IoT, blockchain, quantum, any other technologies anyone wants to mention? Okay, well, what was that?
Hacking.
Hacking. Oh, well, that's very disruptive. All right. Anyone else have some ideas of what's going to disrupt the embedded systems landscape? All right. Well, oh, here's one.
Coronal mass ejection.
Well, you may have to tell us more. What exactly is that?
In a sense that solar wind from the sun.
Look out for that solar wind, everyone. Seriously. I'll have to study up on that one. We talk about space a lot in our webinar series. So let's go by a show of hands here. Who thinks that AI is going to be the most disruptive? Anybody? Okay. What about IoT? Anybody? How about blockchain? All right. What about quantum? All right. What about solar winds? And hacking. All right, well, I think hacking could also be very disruptive. David, when we look at something like autonomous driving, it seems like a lot of systems are going to have to work together in order to make this possible. What challenges do you foresee, and how does something like mobile edge computing come into play in solving those challenges?
Yeah, it's a great question. So first of all, a modern vehicle is just chock full of embedded systems. It's a very high-end automobile with lots of features, toys and things. Could have 300 processors in it. Most people are just blown away to hear that kind of a number. And these are processors all the way down from a little microcontroller that runs your windshield wipers, all the way up to a big brain that's running your infotainment system. And even the infotainment system probably has a lot of processors all by itself, just to read the fact that you turn the knob or touch the screen. A lot of this supply chain shortage stuff we're talking about right now in automotive, I think people have been finding it amazing that, like GMC can't ship 10,000 pickup trucks because it's missing the control chip for the headlights. It's a real thing. So, and it's because it's so embedded, and I mean literally embedded into surface mount, flex circuits and things like that. You can't just ship the truck without that and then go back and retrofit it later without a really expensive replacement of the entire, possibly a whole motherboard that's worth, $1,200 or more. So that is why the automotive industry got kind of used to things being delivered, in essentially real time to the factories, and now, that's where the impedance is occurring. So with automotive, these embedded systems do have a big range of sort of sophistication, and now it's bubbling up to where the vehicles now need to talk to something that's not the vehicle. So that's where mobile edge computing comes in. So edge computing, broadly defined, means that there's a processor, usually something that runs, like a general purpose processor running, an operating system that you can load applications into, and it's at the end of the sort of data supply chain. So a lot of people argue your phone is an edge computing device. Yeah, even though I can't load code on your computer, on your phone, that'd be pretty scary. But the interesting thing is now with 5G, it's going to be possible to have what they broadly classify as mobile edge computing. So what that means is in the cell tower, there are going to be processors that can actually deal with applications as a vehicle or a person is moving in the vicinity of that cell tower. It's very, very interesting.
Exactly. How far away are we from seeing autonomous vehicles on the road or are we already there?
That's a fun question. Turns out just yesterday I took a ride in an autonomous vehicle here in Las Vegas. These are not the Teslas running underneath the convention center. That's driven by a human. But at the moment.
Johannes, can you give some advice for anyone trying to navigate Industry 4.0 and the exponential pace of change that we're dealing with?
Well, navigating Industry 4.0, we did a webinar in April called Earth 4.0, and that's our sustainability webinar this year. One of the conclusions of that webinar was that we really need to take a step back because Industry 4.0 is not good enough at the moment, and I'll explain in a sec. And because of the environment. We really need to take care of our environment. We really need to take care of sustainability with anything that we build. So Industry 4.0 is not there yet. We may need Industry 5.0 as soon as we can get it, because that has the sustainability component, or we need to adopt that and create Industry 4.5 with more sustainability. So that's one thing. What it means for anybody who's working in this space, more work, because there's going to be more change, there's going to be more adaptation. The other thing that's happening, and we also seen it in the webinars, our webinars are, we have an international audience. We have over 100 countries in the audience on a monthly basis. We see innovation happening worldwide. Second thing, and everybody has experienced that in the past year, a pandemic is a giant accelerator. So what we've seen as tiny trends floundering like blockchain before the pandemic now is a major trend with multiple impacts. So the pandemic is not over yet. It will continue to accelerate all kinds of developments. So yeah, hang in for the ride because it will continue like this. So the speed of change, as we've seen in the past 2 years, it will continue.
Well done, Johannes. I love that you're supporting the environment there. Such an important issue to highlight. All right, welcome back. And Johannes, what a great event. What did you think about our panel discussion?
Well, Tiffany, in our webinars, we always talk about the edge computing, edge connectivity. And I like the fact that for this conference, we took this opportunity and discussed the hardware and software that basically define the edge. So one of my takeaways is that embedded systems are getting really complex because we're asking so much from the systems that we're putting on the edge of everything.
Well, my favorite answer, Johannes, was the pop-up question from the audience regarding where's the money? And I thought you did a great job at expressing how the money can be found in IoT. So if you want that information, you'll have to watch the full panel discussion. But it was very entertaining, very interesting, and I think the audience enjoyed it quite a bit. But next, let's talk about food systems and some related news that we found about this topic. To kick things off, on June 7th, it was Food Safety Day, and it is a World Food Safety Day. And so there are several stories that are catching my interest having to do with food safety. One of those being a topic about the wet market disease warnings. And scientists say pathogens are ubiquitous in wildlife trade. And this article goes through and highlights that when a team of international scientists embarked on a project to identify infectious diseases among animals sold at wildlife markets across Laos, they were alarmed at the ubiquity of bacterial pathogens that they found. And wet markets ranging from roadside stalls to sprawling warehouses full of live produce are infamous for keeping stressed wild animals in crammed conditions, ready to be butchered and sold for human consumption. And while they have long been considered disease incubators, the coronavirus pandemic has thrown a fresh spotlight on their prevalence and the threat that they still pose. And another story is about the alarming levels of dangerous chemicals known as PFAS that were discovered in food packaging at a number of well-known fast food, casual restaurants, and grocery store chains. A new report had found. So it seems like we've got some serious challenges to conquer when it comes to food safety. Wouldn't you say, Johannes?
Yes, we do. There are a lot of challenges. And to comment on what you just mentioned, in the Western world, we don't have the wet markets anymore. but when you travel, certainly Asia, Africa, then they are very common. So definitely a place to be very careful. But talking about the food challenges, and just talk about one element, I do suggest that everybody checks out the WHO food safety documents, because food poisoning is not fun at all, no matter where it happens, how it happens. I still remember a road trip that I took with my wife almost 20 years ago. We bought food at a road food stall, and I had to take her to a hospital that same night because of severe food poisoning. So be aware.
Thank you, Johannes. And our next story is on tackling food waste. And this story comes from Sacramento, California. Starting on July 1st, the city of Sacramento will require its residential customers to sort out organic food waste as part of their new recycling program. And organic food waste will have to be disposed of in green city yard waste bins. And this includes fruits, vegetable scraps, eggs, meats, bones, food soiled papers, pizza boxes, coffee filters, and napkins. And the new recycling program is required statewide by law in an effort to reduce methane emissions by limiting what's going into landfills. And the city's asking residents not to start putting organic food waste into those green bins with yard waste earlier than July 1st. When the program starts, the city will need to use more intensive processes to start breaking down organic waste into compound. And considering that about a third of our food globally is wasted each year, Johannes, I would say that food waste is a equal or even bigger challenge than food safety. What are your thoughts on that, Johannes?
Well, food waste is a big problem, and you mentioned just one element of food waste, the methane emission. But reducing food waste is going to be and is essential for fighting hunger in the world. Food, on top of that, food waste drives up the price of food. So if we want to take the fight of inflation seriously, let's tackle food waste. The technology is available. This has been extensively researched over the past decade, and studies have shown that 50% of consumer food waste can be prevented by extending shelf life of food products, which ties in to the EPA 2030 goal, which aims to cut the food loss here in the US in retail and consumer level in half, which would reduce food waste by about 60 billion pounds.
And how are we going to do this? Well, in a recent STEM competition, there was an idea brought to the table by Ria Sridhar, a student at Santiago Hills Elementary School in Irvine. And she has a plan that could be a game changer for reducing food waste and methane emissions, which is a contributor to global warming. And Ria's discovery is called the Smart M Detector, and it uses a Raspberry Pi, which is a miniature computer that she can code a solution to detect methane levels in food, which in turn can notify her of wasted food. Her detector gained attention at the Irvine Unified School District's annual science fair, where she was honored with the 2022 Broadcom Coding with Commitment Award. And I thought this do-it-yourself Raspberry Pi invention is a very innovative and appropriate solution. What do you think, Johannes?
Well, the Raspberry Pi is an amazing and low-cost computer. It has been around for a while already. It's getting more and more powerful, and it's ideal for these kind of science projects. And yes, this is a great way to extend the shelf life of food.
And here's another interesting story. Uber is the latest company to try delivering food to people's homes with robots. The company, which has long claimed that automation is key to its future profitability, is launching 2 test programs to deliver Uber Eats in Greater Los Angeles this month, including 4-wheeled robots that roll on sidewalks for short trips, as well as self-driving cars for longer distances. But isn't this already happening in Austin, Johannes?
Actually, it is, and I wonder why they always start with pizza delivery. But yes, robot delivery in Austin is happening. Other restaurants are also getting on board, so it's more than just pizza, and it's being tested here in Austin.
Great. And our next story is out of this world, literally. Plants have been grown in lunar soil for the first time ever. Food has been grown in the soil collected from the moon for the first time. paving the way for human migration across our solar system. It is the first step towards producing food and oxygen on the moon or during space missions. Over the next decade, NASA's Artemis program will lay the foundation for sustained colonies on the lunar surface. What are your thoughts on this exciting news, Johannes?
Well, if Matt Damon can grow potatoes on Mars, we should be able to grow them on the moon. Anybody craving for moon fries? On a serious note, this is just one of the many research projects that are part of the Artemis program to develop a self-sustained colony on the moon.
Perhaps moon pies will really be from the moon in the not so distant future. And the next story takes us under the sea. A new underwater greenhouse could reveal the future of agriculture. Nemo's Garden, the world's first and only underwater greenhouse, comprises 6 large biospheres that are growing herbs, vegetables, and flowers. The garden is 130 feet offshore from the village of Noli in Italy's Liguria region. It's comforting to know that there are innovative and creative solutions like this coming out. But what's your take on this, Johannes? Do you think it'll be enough to solve our food supply issues?
It's just one of the solutions, Tiffany, but I would like to highlight that the ocean is called Earth's last unexplored frontier. So we've explored maybe 5% of the ocean. This example is a great example of what can be done, but the ocean provides many more sustainable aquaculture opportunities. And the NOAA aquaculture program provides lots of examples of seaweed, shrimp, or whatever we can grow in a sustainable manner in the ocean.
Excellent. Thank you, Johannes. And what's next for food experiences? Well, food halls. And food halls are a new trend to keep an eye out for. And one such food hall is the Eat Street Crossing, which is taking shape inside the old Arizona studio and will sport 6 food concepts from 2 well-known restaurant couples and 1 cohesive and inclusive bar program. And that's exciting, but there's also another story that features food experiences, and this one is about Girl Meets World actors August Maturo and Ava Kolker, who have reteamed for Just Like You, and food allergies, their new docu-drama VR project, which has recently wrapped production. Through immersive storytelling, the project will show people what it's really like to live with food allergies, taking on the stigma and potentially life-threatening consequences of chronic diseases that impact 32 million Americans. Food allergies will be presented in multiple formats, including as a narrative short within a documentary feature, a standalone short, and a 360-degree VR film. What are your thoughts on food experiences, Johannes?
Well, I like food. I consider myself a foodie. I cannot eat as much as I used to, but I like food and like to prepare food. But what I'd like to highlight is food allergies, and let's not forget food intolerances are very hard, but at the same time also very common. You can get used to not eating wheat, onions, peanuts, whatever, but you also need to check the food preparation. What did he use in the sauce? The food processing. Are you eating something that was processed in a factory that commonly processes peanuts, for example? So not fun if you have a food allergy or intolerance.
Thank you, Johannes. That's very insightful. And that's all we have time for today. So thank you for joining us, and be sure to tune in on Thursday, June 30th for our Connected Food webinar. Come back and see us in July for our Made to Order webinar about 3D printing. In August, we will have the future of connectivity, and we will also have the Summit of Things coming up, as well as our 3rd annual Industry Insights IoT Awards. And you can register for all of those events, as well as learn more about our marketing services, speaking, sponsorship, and advertising opportunities, and more, all at iotmktg.com. Any final thoughts, Johannes, as we wrap things up?
Well, I would like to say that our program this year is very, very strong. We also have great topics, amazing speakers, and a fantastic moderator. And in addition, we are bringing our panel discussions to the trade shows. So we're constantly developing new programs like this IoT Marketing news section. And last but not least, in a world where rapid change is the new normal, Industry Insights Webinars is your trusted source of the latest trends in high tech.
Well, thank you so much, everyone, for watching. Thank you, Johannes, and we will see you next time. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Tiffany. Have a wonderful day.
Bye-bye.